Good afternoon. Hi there. I'm Suzanne McClain, and I wanted to let you know how much I truly appreciate you joining us today for this live cast. So to get started here, I'm going to go ahead and
Hi there,
introduce.
I'm Suzanne McClain, and I
Oh,
want to let you know
hold
how much.
on. Something's going on. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my team here so everybody knows. I always like to put a face with a name. So when you call in the office, you kind of know who you're going to be talking to. So I'm going to start here. The first one I'll have is Ty. And
Hello, everyone.
he talks to a lot of you on the phone when you call in, does a lot of our tech support. So I'm going to have him say hello.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see all of you here.
All right. And then we'll go to Alice. Now, if you got our newsletter this month, Alice was spotlighted in our newsletter. She does a lot as if you're an extra care member, you probably have worked a lot with her with the extra care. She also does our dental and vision, and just all in all, she just is one of our amazing support staff. So go ahead and say hello, Alice.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, and Tisha, I want to talk about Tisha for just a minute. She is the other advisor here on our team, so it's myself and her. So I know many of you have probably worked with Tisha when picking out your Medicare plans and things like that. So I'm going to have Tisha say hello.
Hey everyone, glad to be here.
All right, and then we'll talk about Ray here. She is you get her a lot when you call in because she typically is the first person on the phone, and she will help. She does all of our support. She helps with applications. So I'm gonna let Ray say hello.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here and to see everyone.
All right, and then last but not least will be Joe, and well, he's my better half. So he does. I always say he does the behind the scenes stuff. So you don't see a whole lot of him, but he makes it all work when I'm out there meeting with clients and meeting with financial advisors and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Joe for a sec.
Hey, everybody. We really appreciate you. So excited for you to be here today and excited to kick off our 2024 live event here on May 2nd. And we're really hoping to give you a taste of what you're going to see at our live event. And we're excited to have you come to it. So thank you for being here.
Okay, so here's what we're going to start with is if you were at our event last May of 2023, we had Kathy Chiero from the Chiero Group get up and talk about real estate. So really what one of her big focuses are is helping people downsize. And what I find is talking to clients retiring, turning 65, I hear quite often, well, now that I retired, I think I might move to where my kids are, where my kids live, and I might be downsizing. So I'm super excited to share that she is our corporate sponsor for this year, and we're super excited to partner with her. So we're going to go ahead and talk to us a little bit more about Kathy. So Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read a little bit here about Kathy because I don't want to get this wrong. She's been one of Columbus's top-selling realtors for over the last 25 years. Like Suzanne said, she's the creator of Ohio's premier downsizing event, Downsize Columbus. She's the lead agent for the Kathy Chiero Group of Keller Williams Greater Columbus. So when Suzanne and I were talking about like creating corporate partners and that type of thing, like Kathy was like top of our mind because over the last few years, we've gotten to know Kathy and we feel like that she has the heart of a servant, just like what we have built National United Medicare Advisors around. So we're very excited to partner with her. So one, as many of you know, like our God-given mission is to help and protect others when life gets complicated. And and part of that protect is obviously we don't want to bring anybody in front of you or endorse anybody unless we are 100% confident that they have the same values as us, that they're going to support you and give you the same service that we would give you. So that's why we're so excited to have Kathy on board and to be able to endorse her. And I think it's going to be huge for all of you that as you're navigating, like Suzanne said, a lot of you may be considering downsizing or, a sale of your home or a purchase, that type of thing. I think Kathy is going to be a great choice for helping you with that. So I want to have Kathy talk for a minute, basically about like if anybody on here is like thinking about selling their house this spring or anytime this year, like kind of what they should be looking for and like the steps that are involved. So Kathy.
Thanks. Yep, thanks so much, Joe. And this is a great team. As Joe said, I feel it's a great fit. We both Joe and Suzanne and their group and my group, certainly we're in the business to sell your home, but we understand, especially as a downsizer, that the sale of your home, I always call it the edge piece of a puzzle. You know, when you do a jigsaw puzzle, the edge pieces are the easy pieces, and often selling the home is an edge piece. But the really difficult pieces are in the middle, and that's the timing. Where should we go? What is the next 20 years of our life going to be like? Where should we live to most maximize those years? And as many of you know, a big difficult challenge is getting rid of stuff. We have found that that is really a number one hindrance to people selling their home is getting rid of stuff. So as a team, we've said, okay, if we're going to serve this group, the first thing we need to do is educate them, answer questions, and be there as a consultant, sort of a guide through this process. Hopefully with the end result that you use us to sell your home, but we just understand it's a long and complicated process, not like when you were 35. When you're going up the ladder, it's much easier than coming down the ladder. When you're coming down, you have a whole lot more boxes in your basement. So we recognize that. But just from a pure real estate market, we're not in Kansas anymore. that wonderful market we saw up until about 2020 ended in 2022 when interest rates doubled in a 6-week period. So if you're thinking of selling in 2024, we really need to sit down and have a more realistic view of what the market's like. It is still a seller's market. We are still seeing homes sell in days. We are still seeing homes get top dollar, but there are some very big differences than 2 years ago. So you really need a realtor who's walked through that to be able to educate you as to not just Columbus, but your neighborhood, your house, and your price point, which is what we aim to do. And the way we do that is this is the time, I always joke and say this is the time of year I'm working really hard and making no money, because what I'm doing is meeting with homeowners who are saying, hey, Kathy, we're thinking of selling in March, April, May, but can you come out today and really give us the groundwork? Tell us where we are, what we need to do, where the price point is. So I have a lot of those meetings this time of week, and that's rather this time of year, and that's what I'm offering to you. That is a no obligation free consultation to sit down with you. And many of you maybe have not had this kind of meeting in 30 years. So it's kind of bringing you up to speed on the market and what's going on. Also an event we have coming up, if you want to mark your calendars, and I'll tell you what, Joe, I'll put it in the chat for your staff if they want to register. We do have our spring event coming up on April the 14th. It is called Got Stuff, Get Help. We are bringing in a national keynote speaker to talk about decluttering your lives and decluttering your hearts and your house. And then we have breakout sessions with people who are in very practical ways going to talk to you about how to clear that basement, clear the room, clear your home, even if you don't plan on selling, just to simplify your life and get rid of stuff. So that's coming up on April 14th. I've got a couple resources. If you've come to my seminar, this is a book I wrote called Got Stuff, Get Help. It is a Central Ohio guide to getting rid of stuff. All of the resources in here for buy, sell, donate, auction, junk are local resources. And so we make that available to you. And then I just put this together, and it's a fan request. I've sold hundreds of these books locally, and people said, okay, Kathy, you're telling us where to take stuff, but what are the steps to get rid of stuff? So I put together this brochure called Freedom from Stuff. And actually, we do sell this online. If you go to downsizecolumbus.com, but I bring you a copy of this free if I have the privilege of sitting down with you and preparing you for a spring sale. I bring you a copy of this to get you started on getting rid of stuff. So I'm on your team. We're ready to help. I've got a great team that is also available. We would love to sit down and talk with you and bring you up to date if the next several months is just kind of whirling in your mind as to where you're going to go and what you're going to do. We'd love to help you. To register for our events, you can go to ourohiohome.com. I'll put that in chat. They can share that with you. Or I'll also put the phone number of my customer care coordinator, Brandon, and he will get you registered for all of that. We'd love to see you. We love this group. I'll tell you what, United American Healthcare Advisors is just, we are simpatico in our values and the way we serve our clients, and it is a privilege to speak to you today alongside of them.
That's so good, Kathy. Thanks so much for going into all of that. And as I'm sure that many of you can tell, like she really has, her and her team have the heart to serve, and they have really dialed it in on the whole downsizing thing and getting rid of stuff. And I know we hate to admit it sometimes, even at Suzanne and I's age, like, man, these closets, they need to be gone through and some stuff gotten rid of. So Kathy will be at our May 2nd event. So she's going to give the state of the market for the greater Columbus area. So you don't want to miss that either. And like she said, if you're looking to buy or sell this year, get a hold of her now so she can lay out those steps for you and help you get started. So like I said, our live event is May 2nd, and that's a Thursday. Starts at 11. The tickets are only $10. We're going to serve you a great lunch this year. We had some complaints about the Subway last year, so we're upping our game a little bit to a better lunch and a better facility. So we're going to put in the chat the link to go get your ticket for the event. So I'm really excited to announce here, he's going to be our keynote speaker at the event, Richard Leider. I'm going to go through, he sent me 2 different bios to read. One was pretty short, one was much longer, and I just wanted to go with the long one here so you get the full effect of who Richard really is. So I'm going to read this so I don't get anything wrong, so forgive me for that. So why do you get up in the morning? Internationally best-selling author, coach, and keynote speaker, Richard has pioneered the way we answer that question. Widely viewed as the thought leader of the global purpose movement, his work is featured regularly in many media sources, including PBS Public Television and NPR Public Radio. His PBS special, The Power of Purpose, was viewed by cities across the U.S. He has taken his purpose message to all 50 states, including Canada and 4 continents. Along the way, Richard has written 11 books, including 3 bestsellers, which have sold over 1 million copies and has been translated into 20 languages. Repacking Your Bags and The Power of Purpose are considered classics in the personal growth field. His latest book, Who Do You Want to Be When You Grow Old?, defines the power of purposeful aging. Richard is the founder of Inventure, the Purpose Company, a firm created to guide individuals to live, work, and lead on purpose. He is ranked by Forbes as one of the top 5 most respected coaches and is a contributing author to many coaching books. He is one of the select few coaches who has been invited to work with over 100,000 leaders from over 100 organizations such as AARP, Ameriprise, Blue Zones, Habitat for Humanity, the Mayo Clinic, the NFL, Outward Bound, the United Health Group, and the U.S. Department of State. Richard holds a master's degree in counseling and is a national certified counselor and a national certified master career counselor. His work has been recognized with many awards, including the Bush Fellowship, Outstanding Scholar for Creative Longevity, and the Wisdom Award from the Fielding Institute. Richard is a senior fellow at the University of Minnesota's acclaimed Earl Bacon Center for Spirituality and Healing, and an education fellow with the Retirement Income Institute. Richard serves as the Purpose Ambassador for Blue Zones, the Whole Health Institute, and the Vail Alliance for Purposeful Living, and the Blue Spirit Costa Rica. So for 30 years, he has led adventure expedition safaris in Tanzania, where he's on the board of Durabo Fund for Tanzania. He and his wife, Sally, live in Minneapolis, Minnesota area, and it is my pleasure to introduce Richard Leider.
Well,
Richard, take it away.
well, that was more than enough for people, but it's a real privilege to be part of this team, and I'm part of both Suzanne and Kathy's groupies, because learning from Suzanne through her book, which in our conversations has been very helpful, and I'm in the team, or not the team, but the process of lightening my own load, Kathy. So I invited Kathy to come to Minneapolis to help us lighten our own loads. But I am privileged to come in May to be part of this program, and I hope to see all of you there at that point.
So, Richard, I'm going to go through a few questions, more like an interview style, and I want all of our clients, anybody on the call here today, to feel free to put anything in the chat, any questions you have for Richard. And so basically, first question is, like, why have you devoted your life to learning and teaching about purpose?
Well, my background is in counseling, so I'm interested in personal agency, personal behavior, and personal choices and things like that. But I met a man when I got out of graduate school and spent some time with a man named Viktor Frankl, who wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, which people might know of. But Frankl was in concentration camps for 3 years, and his whole family was killed, and he survived and came out of the concentration camp saying that the ultimate human freedom is choice. It's to choose what you want your life to be about in spite of the circumstances and the adversity you're in. And that life, a meaningful life, requires practice, requires choices. And so I decided that that was what I wanted my life to be about at that point. So there are many, many ups and downs, like with all of us on the roller coaster of life along the way. But that was the choice point for me. I said, this is so fascinating, but why isn't it out there? Why don't people know about this? Why don't people understand why meaning and matters, and why a meaningful life matters? So I've spent 5 decades studying, writing, and preaching about that.
That's awesome. So yeah, that book is amazing. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So anybody that's not read that, definitely put that on your list.
It's a must. Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Blue Zones. And it's a Netflix documentary. When we sent out the email to invite everybody to this, we put that in the email for people to check that out on Netflix. So that's kind of my path to finding you, Richard, was I watched that documentary, and I watched some other interviews, and you were mentioned in it, and then we reached out to you. So tell me, like, for those that have no idea what the Blue Zones are, just give us like a brief description of what they are and kind of like your path on how you got involved with them.
Well, my friend and colleague, Dan Buettner, wrote the book, The Blue Zones, and he's a National Geographic explorer who National Geographic said, let's go find where the longest lived people are. And they call those places the Blue Zones. And they're only called Blue Zones because in the National Geographic office in Washington, they had a map on the wall. And every time they found where the longest lived people, the longevity revolution, people who lived to be centenarians, they would circle it in blue. So they called it a blue zone. And of the 9 factors that make up a blue zone or make up where the longest lived people in the world are, the core is really purpose. And that's my, my call is to help people discern, discover, live purposeful lives. So I'm the Blue Zone's purpose ambassador, and I do programs for them and with them and around the country. And so that's what a Blue Zone is all about. But it's basically, I've been studying the longevity revolution before it really became on the radar screen into the zeitgeist, and that is where people live the longest. And I've had, I'll take it just one step further. I think it's maybe your next question. I'm not sure, Joe, but I started in the early 70s after a Bush fellowship studying longevity to interview people over the age of 60. And I asked them if they could live their life over again, what would they do differently? And 3 themes kept coming out, which are the 3 themes that I'm going to talk about when I'm there at Columbus. Number 1, people said I would be more reflective if I could live my life over. I would look at my choices, and we can go into more details. Secondly, they said I would take more risks. Well, I don't know how many people on this call are risk takers, but probably not too many say, oh, I wish I hadn't taken that risk or whatever. And so, but the risks were in relationships and in life choices, and particularly around work and around the way they spent their time. Time is the most precious currency, certainly with Medicare and with money. There's 3 M's, I say: money, medicine, and meaning. And we all know people who have had enough money and maybe enough medicine, meaning health, but not meaning in their life. And that's what I can offer to us when I come to Columbus is, how do we discern meaning in our lives at this? So the second thing after reflection was people wanted more. They wish they would have taken more risks in those areas, particularly in the area of relationships and work. And the third is purpose. Meaning matters. And so I find that people, as they age, want to live meaningful lives, not just happy lives, but purposeful, meaningful lives. So we'll talk about what that really means.
Yeah, so we went ahead and put in the chat the Netflix series title and stuff. So it's only 4 episodes long. You can watch it in a weekend.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It just goes into these areas that Dan found where people are commonly living to 100. And one of the things Dan says, which we put into the title of our live event, was that purpose alone can add 7 years to your life. So just like living on purpose, living with purpose can lengthen your life, even without the other 8 characteristics. So
when I did the PBS special, Joe, that you mentioned, one of the things that PBS did was to fund me to go out and talk with neuroscientists around the country about purpose and longevity, purpose and health. And one of the people held up a pill, and he said, "Richard, you see this pill?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Would you buy it?" And I said, "What does it do?" And he said, "Well, it'll increase your life by 7.5 years. It'll reduce the effects of dementia and Alzheimer's. It'll help with sleep apnea and will reduce macroscopic stroke by 41%. I said, "Oh my God, who wouldn't buy that?" And he said, "Well, that's what people say, but it's free. It's purpose. We now can measure purpose in the brain, purpose in longevity, purpose in things like that." And so what we're finding is that science and faith both agree that purpose is essential. That's why I'm so aligned with your values around faith and purpose and meaning. They're all fundamental to who we are as human beings. They're not luxuries.
That's so good. I love that pill example. So what in your work with the blue zones, like what in looking at these different areas, these different blue zones, is there anything that like surprised you, or maybe something about purpose that you thought maybe was just your theory that was cemented, or something that challenged something you thought about purpose by looking at these different blue zones?
Well, it didn't surprise me because I've been a student of it for a long time. But the three myths about purpose, three common assumptions or myths that are false. Number one is you have to have a cause. You have to save the world, whether it's climate change or anything else, you have to have a cause. No, purpose is a mindset. It's your reason to rise. Purpose, the answer to purpose is, why do you get up in the morning? Why do you do what you do? What's your reason to rise? And so that's what I help people do with actual practices to help discern or re-look at their reason to live, their reason to rise. Secondly, second myth is that you find a lot of people on this call perhaps say, oh, you're lucky you found your purpose. You don't find purpose. It's not magic. You create it. And what I say is you unlock it. It's in here waiting to be discovered, that mindset. And there are multiple purposes throughout your life, but there's the mindset of making a difference in life, of actually adding and making a contribution, even in retirement, that we feel better when we contribute and make a difference to others. And the third thing is that purpose is a luxury only for the wealthy or for the educated no, purpose is fundamental. It's core to who we are as human beings. And when we lose our sense of purpose, we lose our health, we lose our resiliency. During the pandemic, purposeful people did better than those that not, and we were able to measure that. So there's a lot to be said about this. But the key is purpose is a path and practice. So what is your path? What is your mindset about your life and what are your practices? What do you do on a day-to-day basis to rise in the morning with a sense of purpose?
Perfect. Joe, we do have a question from Kathy. So Kathy, since you're on here, you can just go ahead and ask your question.
Richard, this is something I hear all the time, and I'm just curious what your response is. When I talk to people who are facing retirement, their immediate plans are to play golf or travel with their grandkids, and it is sort of a honeymoon of all the things I wished I had time to do.
Right.
But my observation is there's a lifespan to that honeymoon, and then what? Why isn't that enough? For most people, why isn't it enough just to get up every day and have nothing to do?
Well, we're, as human beings, purpose is in our DNA, Kathy. It's not just a psychological, philosophical, or religious choice. Who we are in I have sitting by myself here a phone. Does anyone here on the call have a phone like this? It's everybody probably, or something. And so one of my colleagues has, when you call and he's not there, he says, at the sound of the tone, please leave your answer to life's two eternal questions. Who are you and what do you want? And so when you look at who are you and what do you want, we're talking about people want to belong and they want to matter, the bottom line. And that doesn't end with retirement. They want to continue to belong and to matter as they age in retirement. How they do that is, everyone's an experiment of one. It's an individual choice, Kathy. And so I just say to people who bring that up, like you brought up, take a moratorium. Make no decisions on your house, even your stuff, but don't for at least 6 months, and just clean your garage and travel and go see your grandkids or fish or hunt or golf or whatever. But at some point, you're going to find something's missing. And that missing piece usually is a sense of significance, a sense of meaning, of wanting to matter in other people's lives. But it doesn't have to be a cause. It can be waking up in the morning and giving someone a kind word, a hug, like Viktor Frankl said in the concentration camps in Germany, he said people who gave others a crust of bread, a slurp of soup, a hug, a kind word, did better. They may not have survived, but they did better than those that were all self-absorbed. So self-absorption in retirement is a kiss of death, quite frankly. People are not going to do well in the long term, but in the short term, maybe okay. So I don't know. We can go on and about that, but take a moratorium.
That's a good question, good answer. And yeah, there's only so much pickleball you can play before you realize that's not the meaning of life, right?
Yep.
But, maybe become a pickleball teacher, or, you find purpose in what you're doing. That's what I like about what you're saying.
Listen to your partner. That's what's going on in their life. And I mean, it just, there are 1,440 purpose moments in a day. Now think about that, Kathy, 1,440 purpose moments in a day. When a purpose moment is just turning and saying, thank you, or I love you, or giving a hug, or it can be more than a moment, but those purpose moments are what make life significant.
Good. So we're going to wrap this up in a couple minutes, but I just wanted to put it back out there. Anybody on the Zoom today that has a question, put it in the chat, and so we can ask Richard before we wrap things up. But Richard, next question was so most everybody on here is either going to be retiring soon or in that phase of life. And that can be a time where, like Suzanne has such great stories of people that, they lived with purpose with their work all their life, and then they no longer have that work. What are some steps, or what are some things you could possibly help somebody with today that is struggling with, that type of situation where they had all their identity wrapped up in what they did all their life, and now they're retired?
Well, this is what I'm coming to Columbus to talk about in depth, but in simple terms, a couple things here, Joe. Number one is consider purpose with a big P purpose and a little p purpose. And often there's a sigh of relief if I'm in the room with people. Oh, the big P purpose is having a cause and being known for something, and being somebody was essential, and now I'm nobody, and what do I do? But little p purpose is that 1,440 everyday purpose moment. And so one of the things you can do is write on a little Post-it the universal core purpose. So here I am, 5 decades of study, 11 books, 3 bestsellers, boiling it down to 2 words: grow and give. If you get up in the morning with the intention, the agency, as they call it, to grow and to give today, you will be living purposefully. At the end of the day, so take that little Post-it that you wrote, grow and give, and put it on your mirror in the morning. Ask yourself, how am I going to grow and give today? But then at the end of the day, before you go to sleep at night, maybe you're brushing your teeth or you're just reflecting, how did I grow and give today? And what you'll find is that you're having a more fulfilling life when you're growing and giving on a day-to-day basis. Just simple, small things. Could be with a grandkid, could be with a spouse or partner, could be with something in the community or your faith-based organization, whatever it is. So the simplest thing is to have a practice of growing and giving on a day-to-day basis. At the end of the week, I guarantee you, Joe, that you'll have a felt sense of purpose, not just a concept like, oh, that's a good idea. Actually, I felt better and more alive when I grew and give, when I practiced growing and giving today, as opposed to just as a concept. So our team here, I think every advisor, every one of the Medicare advisors and financial advisors should be growing and giving. And out of that growing and giving, beyond just making a living and making money and helping people with the financials, will help people live a more purposeful life.
That's good. So last question. I don't see any other questions coming in. So this is your last chance. Anybody has a question on the call. But the last thing I wanted to go over was, So what if somebody you care about, it's just obvious that they lack purpose and maybe they're sitting there on the couch for 6 hours
Yeah.
a day binging the news or
Yeah.
whatever. Other
Yeah.
than, getting them a ticket to our May 2nd event and bribing them to come with you because of the free lunch, like what can people do to help that person?
That is a major question I get all the time. And I really don't have an answer that's a silver bullet type of answer. But Carl Jung, the psychologist, the late psychologist, said the greatest damage you can do to others, including or mostly your kids, is your own unlived life. So the key here is to practice what you preach, is to be your message, be purposeful, grow and give, and rather than give advice, be the message and listen to people and allow them to grow and give. So in many ways, that's what I tell to people, and I tell my own, myself relative to my own family and my own kids and grandkids is to be my message, not just talk about it because yada yada yada. They're tired of advice, but they love stories. The world turns on stories, not facts. And so your story is evidenced or embodied in the way that you live your life. And that is something that they will never forget. That's your legacy.
So good. So let's wrap it up right there. We don't have any other questions coming in, and we wanted to try to keep this to 30 minutes ish. So we're going to email everybody the recording of this video. We're also going to put in there Kathy's contact information. So if anybody wants to reach out to Kathy to help get started on that first step of buying or selling here in 2024. And then we're going to also put the links to Richard's information and his books. So if anybody wants to grab any of the books that he mentioned today before our event, and we're also going to put a link to the Blue Zone series. So if you're coming to our event, I'm not saying you have a lot of homework to do, but a little bit of background might help also before you get there, but don't feel obligated to do that ahead of time. Just make sure you get your ticket and come and enjoy the event. It's going to be a great time. And as you can see with Kathy and Richard, top shelf people that are going to give us some great content, and it's going to be a great time and entertaining, of course. So thanks, everybody.
I would add one thing just to wrap it up here.
Yeah.
The American essayist E.B. White said this: I arise in the morning, torn between a desire to save the world and a desire to savor the world. This makes it hard to plan the day. Well, Kathy and I and you all, Suzanne and Joe and team, will help you both savor and save. It's not about saving the world, and it's not just savoring is not enough. Purpose is about the balance between making a difference and enjoying and the pleasure of life. So when you come in May, it'll be about both.
That's a perfect way to end it. Thanks so much, Richard.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Kathy. We'll see you, everybody.